the process from check-in through TSA, so you know what to expect on your next flight. Hey y'all, I'm Ashley and this is All Bodies Travel, a channel all about travel, everything from road trips to cruise ships. In January, my mom, hi mom, took her first flight in 20 some years from Kansas City, Missouri to Honolulu, Hawaii. On top of not having flown since the 90s, she hated the idea of flying and still does. You can imagine how nervous she was. I wanted to create a video for people like her who either haven't flown in a long time or who have never flown, so that you know the process nuts to soup. Soup to nuts. How's that saying go? I don't know. First, you want to research your airport for the amount of time that you should be there before your flight. This varies from airport to airport, day to day, time to time. Most airlines, if you're checking in a bag on a domestic flight, require you to be there at the counter checking in your bag 1 hour before your flight. Most of the time, they're really strict about this because once they send the bags, the baggage handlers are gone and they can't come back and pick up one bag or two bags or whatever. They just don't do that. So you want to make sure that you time your check-in time right, so you make sure you get your bag checked if you are checking your bag. If you're flying at a high volume time, like early in the morning, you're going to want to be there even earlier to make sure that you have time to stand in line before checking your bag and getting over to security. My general rule of thumb is to be there 2 hours before your flight. That's me. You may have different comfort levels. You may want to be there 3 hours before. You may only want to be there an hour before. If you're not checking a bag, that's fine. If that works for you. If I'm not checking bags, I'm still there 2 hours early because you never know. The agent at the desk is going to weigh your bag and make sure that it's under 50 pounds or 40 pounds. It varies from airline to airline, so check your airline for how much your bag can weigh, and check the link in the description box below for a portable luggage scale that you can use to check your bag at home. Once your bag is weighed, they'll also check your ID and then tag your bag and put it on the conveyor belt to go down to the baggage handlers. If you only have carry-on bags, you can usually find a self-service check-in kiosk, or you can check in on the app of your airline. At the kiosk, you can request a paper ticket. If that makes you more comfortable, you don't necessarily need it. You can use your phone as your boarding pass. When you do use the kiosk, be sure you have your confirmation number and your ID ready. It will scan your ID and you'll have to put in your confirmation number. Remember, if you have mobility issues or trouble standing in line, you can request wheelchair assistance to the gate. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself for your needs. Whether you can't walk very well or you have an injury, whether it's invisible or not, or you just can't stand for very long, you deserve to have access and accessibility. For example, my husband was working in Florida and he broke his foot, and so he was in a walking boot for normal walking times. Now, airport walking is not normal walking times, so he requested wheelchair assistance from the ticket counter to the gate, and it helped him tremendously, and it helped him not re-injure his foot. If you want, you can always tip the person who's pushing the wheelchair, especially if they're particularly friendly or provide over and above customer service. Speaking of accessibility, if you're flying Southwest and need an extra seat because of your larger body, then you will have to go to the ticket counter for that. So be sure you add in time and account for that time to get your extra ticket to reserve your seat next to you. This applies whether you've pre-purchased or you're requesting it at the ticket counter on the day of your flight. Do you have any tips for getting through TSA security smoothly outside of applying for pre-check or clear? Leave a comment below, and while you're down there, you might as well give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Speaking of TSA, the rest of this video is going to be about how to go through TSA as a regular passenger, not someone who has pre-check or clear, which can often, but not always, speed up the process of getting through security. So if you're interested in that, watch for a video coming eventually about TSA pre-check and or clear. So the first thing, you want to make sure you get in the right line. There's usually going to be somebody at the pre-check / clear line making sure that your ticket says pre-check or clear. That way you don't go in the wrong line and have to go back to the back. That has happened to me. Well, has happened to my husband. Sorry, that was my fault. So there's usually somebody there checking your ticket to make sure you belong in the pre-check / clear line. And if you don't, they'll move you over to the regular check-in line, no problem. While you're waiting in line, you might as well get out your photo ID. Whether that's your real ID, driver's license, or your regular driver's license, or your passport. At most airports I've flown through recently, that's all they need. They'll scan your ID, and then all of your information pops up on their screen, and they clear you, and you go on through. You can have your boarding pass ready on your phone or in hand, just in case they do need that. But I think most places have done away with that and they just scan your ID these days. Once you're through the ID checking phase, you'll get in line for screening. And that includes sending your items through an X-ray and going through the body scanner. Keep in mind, this process can vary depending on the airport, depending on the day, depending on the time, depending on the crowds, depending on the whim of the TSA agents that day. So go with the flow, listen to instructions, and do whatever they tell you, because that's what's going to be the overriding instructions for what you're needing to do to get through security. But this is a very general idea of what might be necessary for you to do when you're going through security. Generally, you'll need to remove your jacket or coat or outerwear, as well as your shoes. And then you usually have to remove your belt or your watch, because those are big chunks of metal, and so they're going to make problems, whether you're going through a metal detector or the body scanner. I have found that my jewelry and my glasses have always been fine to wear through. No issues there. I think you still need to remove the baggie of liquids that you have. You can have a quart-sized baggie of bottles of liquids of no more than 3 ounces or possibly 3.6. I'm going to put a correction here on the screen if that's not true. That way you have the correct information. Listen to whatever's on the screen, not to what's coming out of my mouth if it's different. You'll also need to remove your laptop. In the past, several years ago, I had to remove my e-reader. I've never had to do that again. So that's, again, a whim of a TSA agent on that particular day. I don't expect that you will have to remove your Kindle or Nook or whatever you have from your bag. And don't forget to empty your pockets. I've done that before, where I had change in my pockets, I didn't even think about it, and I went through the scanner, and I went through the scanner, and I went through the scanner, and I finally emptied my pockets, and I was fine. So, check your pockets. If you have medically necessary liquids, those are okay to take through. Just inform the agent that you have them, and they'll let you through. If you have questions about CPAP travel, I do have a video about that. I'll link it down below. Just check that out, and questions answered. So once you have all of your stuff off and out, you're going to put it in the gray bins they provide. I like to make a single layer of things, so I'll put my coat and my shoes in one, and then my laptop and my purse in another. And usually your bags or suitcases can go directly on the conveyor belt and go through. Sometimes they do want those in bins, so just, again, listen to whatever the TSA agent is saying. That will be your rule for that day at that airport at that time. I personally prefer to stand with my items until they're on the conveyor belt going into the machine. That way the person behind me doesn't have to, be responsible for pushing my stuff through the machine as well as their own. So you're either going to go through a body scanner or a metal detector. Again, depending on the day, depending on how big of a line there is, that sort of thing. So here are some tips for the body scanner. Number 1, hold as still as possible. it makes a difference. If you're moving at all, then it can create a blur or trigger something on the machine, and then you have to get an advanced pat down. You don't want that, so hold as still as possible. Number 2 goes back to when you're getting dressed for the day, for your travel day, don't wear a loose skirt. Because again, that movement, even the tiniest bit of movement in a loose skirt from a little gust of wind from somebody walking by can make something happen on the machine that flags you for an advanced pat down. And number 3, alert the TSA agents if you have a metal joint. For example, my mom had a knee replacement. My dad has a shoulder replacement. So they're going to have to go through special measures for TSA because of their special joints. So you're going to step out of the body scanner once they tell you it's clear. And then you're going to have to wait for 2 or 3 seconds, 5 seconds maybe, for the TSA agent to say, okay, you're good. If you're clear, great. Go on and get your stuff and leave. If you're not clear, you'll be asked to step aside for an enhanced pat down. In these instances, they generally only pat down the areas that were problems on the screen. Often, this is around the bra, under the breasts, your groin area, and around your thighs if you are wearing a loose skirt. They do offer a private area where you can go behind a screen and get a pat down. They do allow you to have one person of your choice as a witness, and they have another agent as a witness as well. You will not be asked to lift your clothing or remove your clothing. You may have to adjust it so that they can get the proper pat down procedure and touch their hand to your body. And be aware that if they do need to pat down in your groin area, they will put the back of their hand against your body. So if that's between your legs, if that's on your inner thighs, if that's in your buttocks region, they do use the back of their hand. They use the back of their hand around your breasts as well. So be aware of that. If you are triggered by touch, you will want to wear something that is not going to set off the machine. Wear jeans, wear leggings, wear a tight skirt, I don't know, whatever you're comfortable flying in, but stay away from the loose flowy clothes. That way you don't have to go for the enhanced pat down. And they do provide an agent of your gender presentation. So if you're presenting as a female, they will provide a female agent. If you're presenting as male, they will provide a male agent. For non-binary, trans folks, and gender non-conforming folks, I do have good news. They no longer look at gender when they are looking at your ID to confirm your identity. So they've taken gender completely out of the equation. So you can look however you want to look, however you normally look, and you don't have to worry about being flagged because your ID says F and you don't look F. I have reached out to TSA about how to handle a pat down if you are gender fluid, gender non-conforming, non-binary, and how to request an agent, whether you request one of your preferred gender to do the pat down or how that works. I'm going to assume they don't have a non-binary or gender non-conforming person working at every single security stop in the United States. That's just not possible. Hopefully, I will have something cut in here to update you about what the TSA told me about that. For trans folks, you will be able to request an agent of your own gender. So if you are female, you can request a female agent regardless of biological sex or body parts. So keep that in mind. Regardless of what the TSA gets back to me about the non-binary, gender non-conforming passengers, I have linked their gender diversity page down below. I tried calling the TSA Cares number on that page to see how to get more information about being non-binary and going through security with an enhanced pat down. However, the number is just pre-recorded messages, so don't don't waste your time. I wasted my time, so you don't have to. If you do have generic questions, they do have the pre-recorded answers there, but they do not have any way to reach a person to ask specific questions about your specific circumstances. There is an email that you can email, but you have to have a flight booked, so that, because you have to fill in that information. It's a whole process, y'all. But so I'm waiting for that information. Hopefully, again, there'll have been something either cut in above or just after this to let you know what they said. Finally, once you're through screening, you're all approved, you're good to go. Get your stuff and get out of the way. At least that's what I do. I collect my items from the bins and shuffle myself over to the benches where they provide. And I sit down, put my shoes on. I take a minute to catch my breath because it's a flurry of activity getting through security. So I sit down, calm down, put my shoes on, gather my things, put everything back in the right pockets in my purse or my bags, and then wait for my companions if I'm flying with somebody, and then we head off to our gate. I like to get out of the way because there's this crush of people usually coming through security, wanting to pick up their stuff from after security. They're in a rush. They're stressed out. I don't want to deal with that. So I just take my things, go over to the bench, and get recombobulated over there rather than try to do it with all these people crushing around me, reaching for their things all around me. So that's it for this video. So if you have any other questions I did not cover in this video about first time flying, please leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you with either a personal experience answer or a answer from the TSA about what you need to do in these special circumstances. And don't forget, if you're planning a trip anywhere, I am a travel agent and I am able to book you hotels, rental cars, activities, cruises. I don't book flights, but I'll do anything else for you. I don't book flights, but I can help you get through the airport safely, securely, and quickly. So have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.